about Ryan Day up into the playoffs was true.
Not bad. Come on, Kenner. You can do better than that.
To be fair, of all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow is the least accomplished.
Getting better.
1,000,000%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them.
There it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
That's right. Off and rolling here on a Monday. The Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. We are off and rolling, kicking off the week. Selection Sunday has come and gone. We now know who is going to, well, who's in, who's out, and most importantly, who's in the first four, who's going to be tipping everything off, the NCAA tournament, the first four, UD Arena, tomorrow and Wednesday. We'll talk about that as well. A big win for the first four, a big win for the University of Dayton Arena, a big win for us college basketball fans here in the Miami Valley. Maybe not a big win for Dayton fans, as of course you'll have to finally, but you'll have to watch Xavier. Like, I think that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. But North Carolina, Texas, Xavier, San Diego State, I mean, those are four really good programs, all playing in the first four at UD Arena. We'll get to that more coming up here just around the corner. The Dayton Flyers and the NIT again. What in the world is going on with the Flyers program? We have that coming up for you as well. Not a lot of Ohio teams in the NCAA tournament. In fact, I mean, it was kind of a long shot that we were even going to see Xavier make it. I mean, I thought that the only team from Ohio that would actually make the cut, to go dancing in March would be the auto bid from the MAC, which happens to be Akron, who has a 13 seed. I love their seed. I love their path actually in this tournament. We're going to talk about that coming up here shortly as well. But only two teams in the state of Ohio are dancing this March. That's it. Now, a lot of Ohio teams participating in some of these outside tournaments. Of course, the NIT, the Crown over in Las Vegas. We have that coming up around the corner too, which we'll get into. But Xavier and Akron, the only two teams from Ohio that are, in the NCAA tournament. The Cincinnati Bengals, they finally did it. They finally announced that they got the contract extensions done with the Cincinnati Bengals two-star wide receivers, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins will be in Cincinnati for at least the next 5 years. We'll talk about that coming up here shortly as well. But okay, college basketball. The Dayton Flyers. Yes, and Roger, shout out to Roger on YouTube. Roger says, don't forget about the, UC. They're going to be in the Crown. I think the Crown's going to be a disaster, by the way. I think the Crown field is better than the NIT field, but I think that the NIT field I think they can get a tournament in before everything goes crazy. I'm curious how many teams that have actually committed to the Crown that doesn't tip off for another 14 days or whatever it is. It's another 2 weeks before that even tips off. I'm very curious to see how many of those teams actually remain in the tournament. You need 7 players, I think at least is what I read. You need at least 7 players to participate in the Crown. And, I think that's tough to do for the NIT. I think you're going to have a lot of guys opt out. I think it's going to be tough for teams to play in the NIT. How many players are going to decide to stick it out for another week or two to participate in that? That's going to be a big problem, but it's a lot easier to do when a lot of seasons just ended last week or the week before. Some teams who are in the Crown, you get beat early in your conference tournament, you're not going to play again for another 2.5, 3 weeks. That seems kind of pointless to wait and put off joining or jumping into the portal. Like, there's a lot of things about that I think are going to create a lot of chaos and controversy when it comes to the Crown. So I don't know, but yeah, UC there, I'm surprised they accepted that bid. Ohio State did get an invite to the Crown. They turned it down. They opted out. UD accepts the NIT invitation. A lot of Flyer fans upset that they accepted that. I'm here to tell you, this is that ongoing battle between me and Flyer fans. Your program is not good enough to turn down the NIT. You guys scoff at the NIT. You roll your eyes at the NIT. It's not, the NIT is not the end goal when the season tips off. But since Anthony Grant took over, the NIT has been where you guys live in March. It's just the reality of it. Your program is not too good for the NIT. Your program has been the NIT. And I think that until you start winning games in the NIT, until you start winning A-10 tournaments, until you start consistently making the NCAA tournament, this idea that you are too good for the NIT is just kind of laughable to me. And I think and look, and that's what makes the Flyer fan base so difficult to like sometimes if you're not a Flyer fan, is because this we're better than you attitude, but you have no reason to feel that way. And you may think I'm being harsh right now, and I possibly am. But I had to get off social media yesterday because I was just so disgusted at the temper tantrums being thrown on Twitter because I can't believe the Flyers accepted the NIT. But give me a break. Who are the Flyers to turn down the NIT? Who was Anthony Grant to turn down the NIT? Who was Neil Sullivan to turn down the NIT? Who are you as fans who have only been blessed with 2 NCAA tournament appearances since 2018 to scoff at the NIT? Like, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand that. The NIT is not the end goal. That's not why you come to Dayton to play. I completely get that. That's not why you play college basketball. The end goal is not the NIT. But at the end of the day, the probability of playing in the NIT, if you go to Dayton, the probability is significantly higher that you will end your season in the NIT than the NCAA tournament. We're almost going on a full decade, and that's just kind of the reality of it. So it is what it is. Troy, what up, Troy? Troy says, Flyer fan here. I'm glad that they accepted the NIT bid. I've never understood. I get that, you're not playing for the NIT, you're playing for the NCAA tournament, but scoffing and turning your nose up to the NIT, that drives me nuts. It really does. I saw David Jablonski covers the Flyers for Dayton Daily News. He just tweeted out a little bit ago that the Flyers apparently they could play in the Crown tournament coming up at the end of March. But there's a lot of teams that rejected the Crown tournament because of the timing of it. When you think about the portal and roster construction and getting a jump start on next season, to tell your guys to stick it out for 2 more weeks and risking getting knocked out early in the Crown tournament, and you stuck it all out just for 1 game. The Crown, I don't see how that succeeds. I don't see how the Crown tournament succeeds, to be quite honest with you. I just don't. But either way. All right, so the first 4, here's what we do know. So coming up, the first 4 at the University of Dayton Arena, of course, Texas and Xavier, you'll get to see them at the arena on Wednesday night. Tomorrow night, North Carolina, which seems to be the most controversial at-large team in the tournament this year. A lot of people upset. I mean, the fact, like, they're 22-13, they get that 11 seed. They're going to go up against San Diego State, and they're going to have a chance to kind of go on a run. Look, they were down big against Duke in the ACC tournament, but they came back. They made it close, had a chance to win that late. They couldn't get it done. But I've had a lot of arguments. And by the way, North Carolina, you beat San Diego State. You're going to go on to take on Ole Miss, who's a 6 seed. And I think, I kind of like North Carolina in that matchup against Ole Miss, to be quite honest with you. North Carolina, who might be the most controversial addition to this tournament, has a shot to go on a run in this tournament. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But look, yesterday, like I said, not a whole lot of Ohio teams in the mix. It was kind of interesting. I was locked in on the first 4. We're very fortunate to have the first 4 tip off here in Dayton every year. I love the fact that you're going to get Xavier in Texas. I love the fact that North Carolina, San Diego State are your 11s and your 12 seed matchups. And then I love the storylines of the 16 seeds too. American, their first NCAA tournament appearance ever. They're 22-12 in the season. They're a 16 seed going to go up against Mount St. Mary's. The winner of that, well, they get to go get beat up by Duke. Okay, they get to go beat up by Duke. Alabama State, 19-16 on the year. They're going up against St. Francis, who's 16-17. Now, that's what's unique about when you see these smaller conferences, who the only way to go dancing in March is to win your conference tournament. A lot of times, these aren't the best teams from their respective conferences, but they are the hottest teams from their respective conferences. You look at Alabama State, only 4 games, 3 games above 500. You look at the fact that, St. Francis is in the tournament a game below 500. You just continue to look at all of this, and it's like, man, oh man, what a cool opportunity for some of these schools. Now, nobody is going to the arena saying, I can't wait to watch Alabama State, or I can't wait to watch, American. Can't wait to watch Mount St. Mary's. And I get that. I completely get that. But sometimes to me, like, those are the more competitive games half the time. Those are the more competitive games. There's more passion. There is more excitement there. Those teams, it's rare to get to the tournament. It's not easy to get to the NCAA tournament. I remember a few years ago when Wright State got the 16th seed in the first 4. All right. And the winner of it was Bryant and Wright State. And the winner would go on to take on Arizona, the 1 seed. And there were a lot of people saying, there were Wright State fans upset that they had to play in the first 4. Like, they should just automatically be in the tournament. I'm like, you are in the tournament. I've never understood the argument that the first four is not a part of the NCAA tournament. When you look at the fact that, Mount St. Mary's had to win their conference tournament. When you win your conference tournament, you've punched your ticket to the NCAA tournament. If Mount St. Mary's wins tomorrow, okay, they will get a payout because it counts as an NCAA tournament win. Like, this is the NCAA tournament. It'll be counted as an NCAA tournament win. You will get the payout getting an NCAA tournament win. I've never understood that argument, and I will continue to die on that hill, that the first four, the 16 seed matchup, if I'm a 16 seed, I would love to be in the first four. I feel bad for the 16 seeds that just automatically get thrown to the wolves and don't have a chance to actually play in a game that you legitimately have a shot to win. Okay. American and Mount St. Mary's, no one, the winner of that goes on to play Duke. No one is going to pick Mount St. Mary's or American over Duke. But you know what? The fan bases of Mount St. Mary's and American get to experience oh my gosh, we have a chance to win this NCAA tournament game in Dayton, Ohio on Tuesday. How cool is that? You may go get your doors blown off by Duke. You may get your behinds whooped and kicked by Duke, but at least you get to play in an NCAA tournament game against a team that you legitimately have a chance to beat. And if you beat that team, oh my gosh, now you extended your tournament run. It feels like a tournament run. I mean, Wright State a few years ago as a 16 seed getting in, having to play in the first four, to get to play at UD Arena, to hear the Let's Go Raider chants throughout UD Arena. I mean, the atmosphere was unbelievable. And for them to get their very first NCAA tournament win in program history at UD Arena, and then extend their tournament run and then go on to play Arizona. And they were down double digits with about 8 minutes. They were down single digits with about 8 minutes to go. It was a competitive game against Arizona. Like, Wright State had a chance to make that a deep tournament run. I would much rather play another 16 seed in the first four with a chance to win that game to then go on to play the 1 seed than to just be told, congratulations, you're in the tournament. There's no chance in hell you're going to win this. Go enjoy, have fun. I love the 16 seed matchups in the first four. Those aren't the headliners. Those aren't why you're buying the tickets. But I promise you, when you get to the arena on Tuesday and Wednesday night, listen and pay attention to the passion and the excitement of those fan bases. Those fan bases don't get that. A lot of those fan bases probably aren't filling up those local arenas, those local gyms throughout the season. But they jumped on the bandwagon late, and now they want to be a part of something special. Some of those communities do have fans that stick it out through the entire season and get to experience something special. North Carolina, that's great. You guys are excited to go see them at UD Arena. So am I. I'm excited to see Xavier, Texas. They have a lot of NCAA tournament appearances ahead of them. Texas, they have a lot of NCAA tournament appearances ahead of them. Same thing with North Carolina, San Diego State. These are good programs. It's cool for us to get to go see those caliber of teams at UD Arena in the first four. But the passion for those fan bases, those are passionate fan bases because they love college basketball, but it's not the same passion that you're going to get to experience with the 16 seeds that play before. Those 16 seed fan bases, they may never see their team here again. They may never see their team in the tournament again, or they may never see them in the tournament for another 15, 20 years. So when they get there, it is a true experience. I don't think Tar Heel fans are going to have the experience of a lifetime at UD Arena in the first four because they were just in the Final Four a few years ago. Like, this is just another tournament game to them. Great fan base, but it's just another tournament game. I can't wait to see and feel that energy and the excitement and the passion from those 16 seed fan bases coming up this week, Tuesday and Wednesday. Alabama State, St. Francis. Who are they? Don't expect you to know who they are. But those fan bases are going to be it's so cool to watch those moments with those types of teams who this isn't normal. This stage is not typical for them. All right. I mean, to have a Clark Kellogg and a Shaquille O'Neal and a Charles Barkley doing a pregame show ahead of Alabama State basketball, that's not normal. That's normal for North Carolina. Maybe not completely normal for Xavier, but like a Texas and those bigger caliber. I mean, we're talking about Big East. We're talking about SEC. We're talking about ACC. You know what I mean? Those power programs, high major programs, it is what it is. But nonetheless. All right. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Speaking of Frickers, coming up this Thursday, we will be live at the Centerville location. We're going to be live at the Frickers in Centerville from 3 to 5 on the first day of the NCAA tournament. So we're going to be doing the show out there. We're watching all the action. Cannot wait. We don't take the show out on the road too often. We are doing that once a month. We're going to be at different Frickers locations, and we'll have that schedule is up at wingam.com, so you can go check it out to see when we're taking the show to your neck of the woods. We'll be in Centerville this Thursday, 3 to 5. So if you're wondering what you're doing that day for the NCAA tournament, where you're going to go watch the games, come hang out with us at the Centerville Frickers location, where we're going to be getting there a little early, watching the games, and having some fun throughout the day. A lot of prizes, a lot of giveaways, a lot of specials as well. So we'll have more on that throughout the week, but make sure you mark it on your calendars. This Thursday, come hang out with us, Frickers in Centerville, for the first round of the NCAA tournament. So pretty cool stuff there. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. When we come back, the Dayton Flyers are in the NIT. And I said earlier that the fan base needs to stop being snobs about the NIT. You guys need to stop acting like you guys are too good for the NIT. You're not too good for the NIT. You just haven't been good enough for the NCAA tournament. But at what point is not being good enough for the NCAA tournament going to be a final straw for Neil Sullivan, the athletic director, and the university itself? I'm fascinated to see just how much longer the program is going to accept below mediocrity results. It's flabbergasted to me. I mean, think of this resume. Think of this resume right here. Anthony Grant was hired in 2018. Since 2018, the Dayton Flyers have had 2 NCAA tournament appearances and 1 NCAA tournament win. That resume is the exact same resume as Wright State's. Since 2018, Wright State has had the same amount of tournament appearances and the same amount of tournament wins as the Dayton Flyers. Now, I love the Wright State Raiders. I don't look at that as a bad thing, but I know how snobby some of y'all could be when it comes to Wright State, and I know a lot of you probably are disgusted to find out that your precious Dayton Flyers have a similar NCAA tournament resume as the Wright State Raiders, right? Right? So you either have to admit that Wright State's actually pretty good or that your program has not been very, very good since Anthony Grant got here. We'll talk about all that when we come back. The Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Plenty more college basketball talk to come your way. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, and we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Reminder, the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers will be live at Frickers coming up this Thursday from 3 to 5. We'll be at the Centerville location. We're looking forward to seeing everybody out there. Of course, the first round of the NCAA tournament, always a good time. That Thursday, Friday, it's my two favorite days of the tournament. I mean, by the way, this is how much I love our new partnership with Frickers. I usually take off the first day of the NCAA tournament. I usually have a case of like a migraine. I usually, I think I used COVID the last couple of years. I mean, I've been it's a coincidence. I always just happen to be really ill on the first day of that. But I feel like I'm going to be healthy on Thursday. God, I better knock on wood. This could really backfire. No, we will be live on Thursday, 3 to 5 at the Centerville location, at the Centerville Frickers. So we're looking forward to that coming up later on this week. All right. The Dayton Flyers are NIT bound once again. Anthony Grant was hired, obviously, back in 2018, taking over for Archie Miller. Archie Miller, obviously, a coach that right now I see, by the way, a lot of drama, a lot of Dayton drama that's kind of going on the socials. I see Devin Oliver's involved. I see Scoochie Smith is involved. I see the fans are involved. And it's just such a polarizing time in the history of the Flyer program, because I think fans are having a hard time trying to figure out the identity of the Dayton Flyers program. Who are they supposed to be? Who do you want them to be? When we get to this time every single season, what is the expectation? We've been told, the public has been told, Neil Sullivan, when he does address the media every so often, has said before on many occasions that the goal for this program, especially when you think about the fact that it's a basketball school, the amount of money that is pumped into the program, and one of the highest paid coaches, if not the highest paid coach in the AAA-10, millions of dollars you're paying your head coach. There's a lot of expectations that come with the Dayton Flyers, and I have a hard time believing that one NCAA tournament appearance in 8 years is good enough. 2, if we count 2020. The reason I have a hard time counting 2020 is because technically nobody counts 2020. No one gets credit for making the NCAA tournament in 2020 because there was no NCAA tournament. But I do feel like I'm being a little bit too much of a hater if I just totally dismiss how good Dayton was that season, because I will never say that was not a special season. That's what makes what happened that season so unfortunate. We'll just never know. I can't get on board. A lot of you fans will say, man, they were robbed of a national championship that year. Stop it. This team hasn't won the A-10 tournament since 2003, and you want me to believe that they were going to win the NCAA tournament in 2020. I can't get on board with that. Plus, upsets happen in the NCAA tournament. That's what makes the NCAA tournament so special. So this idea that just because you were going to be a 1 seed, that the championship was just going to be yours when there's 3 other 1 seeds that would have been in the tournament that year as well. I think if you are one of those fans that say Dayton was robbed of a national championship in 2020, you're not going to like me even more now, because I think that's one of the most ridiculous comments you can ever make in the history of comments. And I make a living making the most ridiculous comments you can imagine for a living. So you can miss me with that. So we can meet in the middle. I will not say that they were robbed of a national championship in 2020. I'm not even sure if they would have made it past the round of 32, to be quite honest with you, but that's an argument for another day. 2 NCAA tournament appearances and 1 NCAA tournament win. That's the only thing that Dayton has accomplished since hiring Anthony Grant. That's it. Now, they win a lot of games. You're supposed to. You won some amazing games this year. You look at what you did in Maui. What do you have to show for it? An NIT appearance that you have to go on the road to take on Florida Atlantic coming up on Wednesday. Like, I don't know what the true identity of this Flyer program is. Troy says Elite 8 was the most likely outcome in 2020. I don't think that was the most likely outcome. That's the thing about the NCAA tournament. It's so unpredictable that there is no most likely. There is no most likely outcome. There isn't. That 2020 season, you beat up on all the bad teams. You played 2 good teams in 2020, and you lost to both of those teams. The biggest win of the 2020 season was almost beating Kansas. Not hating. That's just the reality of it. Like, you can't they played Colorado that year. right? They had the point guard that transferred out of Dayton when Archie left, and then goes to Colorado and killed it out there. Played Colorado, lost in overtime. Again, very, very good team. Couldn't beat them. Besides the point, you can't say that there was a high probability outcome at any point throughout that tournament because it's the NCAA tournament. It's the most unpredictable tournament that's out there. But the Flyers are back in the NIT. And I know that's not good enough, and I understand your guys' frustration. A lot of you think that the program's too good for the NIT. On a down year, I can maybe agree with you, but this is the fourth NIT bid for the Flyers since Anthony Grant took over. This is the sixth time in 8 years where this team is not being mentioned on Selection Sunday. Technically seventh because there was no Selection Sunday in 2020. And I remember asking this question for years. Like, if you go back, like, which coach for the Flyers was better? Archie Miller or Anthony Grant? I could see for a while it was a tug of war, right? Because I think that Anthony Grant elevated the Flyers November through February to a certain extent, or at least November through early January. Archie Miller elevated the program mid-February, deep into March. And everything you do from a recruiting standpoint, from a practice standpoint, from a game planning standpoint, from a strategy standpoint, everything from season tickets to the business side of how you do your scheduling, everything is done to make the NCAA tournament. At-large NCAA tournament appearances is where the Flyers live, because you haven't won the A-10 tournament since 2003, and you probably only won that one because it was on your home floor. They can't win that tournament. At-larges are your only hopes. And obviously the Flyers did that with Archie. Plenty of at-large opportunities there. Deep NCAA tournament runs, the Elite Eight run, Sweet 16s. Just Archie had the Flyers back on the map. They were a national talking point. When Anthony Grant took over, all I heard was, well, the cupboard is bare. Every year there's a different excuse. And I'm tired of hearing the excuse from a coach that is paid more than anyone else in that conference. From a coach that recruits some of the best talent, if not the best talent in the conference. Every year, there is always some excuse. You've had Tumani Kamara. You've had Obi Toppin. You had Deron Holmes. Nate Santos, I'm not going to put in that category with those guys, but, that's a hell of a player you have there. You went out and you got Zed Key for the transfer portal coming from Ohio State. You have Malachi Smith. Like, you went out, Enoch Cheeks, who was a transfer from Robert Morris. Robert Morris, an NCAA tournament team this year, but a couple years ago, Enoch Cheeks, I was watching him when he was playing Wright State. The kid was dropping 28, 30 points. The kid was unbelievable. Here's the problem is, for me, Archie Miller was the way better coach than Anthony Grant for this Flyer program. The Flyer program felt different with Archie Miller. It felt bigger, larger than life with Archie Miller. And it felt like it was trending in a different direction because the outlier season of 2020, when you have College Game Day on campus, you have National Player of the Year in Obi Toppin, which led to National Coach of the Year for Anthony Grant. That season, that one season, felt larger than life. Everything felt larger than life that one season. But you take out 2020, what do you have? The cupboard is bare. In 2018, that was the excuse then. 2019, well, we're just starting to kind of get going a little bit. 2020, they robbed us because of COVID. 2021, well, we lost all momentum because of COVID. 2022, well, we're injured and we're banged up a lot. 2023, 24, you get Deron Holmes and company. You underachieved the first year with Deron Holmes. You finally get to the tournament, play poorly against Nevada early, but you come back and you win, and you play competitive against Arizona, but that's how the tournament run ends, and then you miss it the following year. Every year there's an excuse for this program, and there shouldn't be. It's a basketball school. A very good, a collective that is as locked in step with their program as I've seen out there for this level of basketball. The fan support that is as big as, it's unbelievable. There's no excuse for the Flyer program to underachieve at the level of which they've done it since Anthony Grant has taken over. You could bring up 2020 all you want. You could live in 2020 for all I care, but it's 2025. In 2018, 2019, 2021, 22, 23, 24, and 25 tells you that this is not a good basketball program right now. They're a good program. They're just good. They're not great. They're not elite. But the amount of money and the amount of resources and the amount of effort that is put in to the Dayton Flyers program, this isn't cutting it. It's not good enough. I said it earlier. Since 2018, 2 NCAA tournament appearances, 1 NCAA tournament win. That is the resume of the Dayton Flyers, and that is the resume of the Wright State Raiders. And I value Wright State. I know how, I mean, that's an athletics department that has, the last I checked, had the second smallest budget in the state of Ohio. How does a school, because you guys, and I'm using your words against you guys here, they don't have any fans. No one goes and supports them at the arena, right? They play in a bad conference. The school has money problems, right? You guys bring all this stuff up all the time. And I have to look at you and I say, yeah, the school did have some money problems. You're right. They've been digging themselves out of a hole for a while. Yeah, you're right. There's not a lot of people. I mean, that place is half empty almost every single game night. You're right. Not a lot. I mean, it's not 13,000 strong like it is at UD Arena. You're right. They don't have an Obi Toppin, a National Player of the Year. You're right. They don't have a National Coach of the Year. You're right. They don't have NBA players. Right. You're right. Huh. You're right. And that's what makes what they do so much more impressive than the team that has endless money, endless resources, an NBA arena, an NBA head coach, NBA players, 13,000 strong that sells out every single season. Your two NCAA tournament appearances and your one NCAA tournament win doesn't sound as impressive as the two NCAA tournament appearances and the one NCAA tournament win for a program that doesn't have that fan support, that doesn't have that NBA talent, that doesn't have that National Coach of the Year, that doesn't recruit ESPN top 100 players, that doesn't have 13,000 fans filling up the Netter Center every single night, that doesn't have a coach making $1 million+ a year. That program, one of the second or third smallest athletic budgets in the entire state of Ohio, for that program to do what they do and for the other program to do what they do, you bet your bottom dollar I'm highlighting all of this stuff because I'm tired of every single time I bring up Dayton struggles. You throw Wright State into my face, and I'm throwing it right back at you. Everything you say about Wright State's program, you'd like to throw the roadblocks that they experience in my face, and yet they have overcome their roadblocks way more than you guys have yours. And this doesn't have to be a whatever contest here. It's just an acknowledgement of the arrogance of the fandom of Dayton, and there has to be some kind of moment where you guys come together and say, enough is enough. Anthony Grant, we love that you're an alumnus, but we don't want you as our head coach anymore. 8 years, guys, 8 years. He has been the head coach for 8 years. What do you have for it? What do you have for it? I'll tell you what you have next. Your team's going on the road for an NIT game against Florida Atlantic. I don't know what the line is. I'm assuming Dayton's favored. But what happens if Dayton doesn't win this NIT tournament? What happens if they get knocked out early? What happens then? Oh, well, they didn't want to be here. They didn't want to play in this anyways. Well, what was their excuse when they lost in the A10 tournament? Oh, they didn't want to be here. They didn't want to play anyways. What was their excuse when they didn't win the A10 regular season championship? They didn't want to be here. They didn't want to play. That sounds like coaching needs to get more out of his players because it seems like it's always the same. They didn't want to be there. They didn't want to play. Oh, girlfriend, problems with the team, drama this, drama that, whatever. You know, it is what it is. Dayton needs to go in a different direction. They need to hit a reset. We're talking 8 years. 8 years. I've seen enough. 2 NCAA tournament appearances for a program that says they're a basketball. How can we take you serious as a basketball school? How can we take you serious as a basketball school when you just accept 1 real NCAA tournament appearance in 8 years? Doug Toby, why don't you explain why they're on the road? First 4 high school state tournament game coming up this weekend. Does that help you, Doug Toby? Does that make you feel better? What? What do you want me to say about that? Because again, if the team did what they're supposed to and make the NCAA tournament, guess what? We don't have to worry about the first 4. We don't have to worry about the boys state tournament being held at UD Arena because the cool thing about the NCAA tournament is there are no conflicts. You just go whatever region they tell you. So thank you, Doug, for reminding me that. That's a great point. Is what it is. It's the Justin Kidder Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We got your Bengals coming up around the corner. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, get that big extension. Finally, what does that mean for the Bengals? Was it the smart move? Was it the right move by the Bengals? We'll get to that coming up around here. Ron Howard says the Flyers live on reputation and history. They need a big name coach to come in and shake up AG culture. Under Grant, you see the same season over and over. Just can't beat the teams they should, but play up to the ranked teams. Ron, I agree pretty much with everything you've said in there, except I don't think they need a big name head coach. I just think they need a head coach that's going to come in and maximize the talent that's out on that floor. I think that they have drastically and grossly underachieved throughout the AG era. I'm a huge Toumani Camara fan of the NBA. I love what I'm watching there. Obi Toppin's fantastic. I can't wait for Deron Holmes to get healthy. How do you have 3 NBA talents like that, a national player, and have nothing to show for it? Chad Kinser on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. UD fans can't admit the bad, just like every fan base, in any sport. Maybe I do think there's a good chunk of UD fans who are kind of turning the corner a little bit. I think a lot of them have seen enough. This isn't like, oh man, he's only been here for 3 or 4 years. Give it some time. I mean, he's been here almost an entire decade. And Chad, you're right. Most fan bases are stubborn. Most are stubborn. They don't want to talk about their own flaws or highlight their own flaws. But yeah, is what it is. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Just a reminder, coming up this Thursday, we'll be at Frickers in Centerville. Looking forward to seeing everybody out there for the first round of the NCAA tournament. We'll have some prizes and other giveaways. We'll tell you what those prizes are throughout the week once we get everything back in-house. Excited about that. 3 to 5, Frickers in Centerville coming up this Thursday. All right, the Cincinnati Bengals, they got it done. And, yesterday was Selection Sunday. Everyone was obsessed with talking about, which teams got robbed, the snubs, all the excitement, the conference tournament week coming to an end, all that fun stuff, the NCAA tournament bracket reveal. That dominated sports headlines yesterday, which is why it was pretty late at night when T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and their agent finally let it break. They finally let the news break. They felt it was safe to announce it late last night that Jamar Chase is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, and T. Higgins got his money. The Bengals core of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are going to be around for quite some time. Did the Bengals make the right decision? We'll talk about that when we come back. More of the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers when we return.
Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We opened up college basketball talk, of course. 68 teams in the NCAA tournament. Only 2 of those 68 teams are from here in the state of Ohio. Akron, a 13 seed. We'll talk about them coming up here in a moment. And then Xavier, who we get a chance to see at UD Arena coming up on Wednesday night. Yeah, that was kind of shocking. Because if Xavier, that's why 68 teams in the tournament, if Xavier doesn't get that at-large bid, if they don't get in, that means the only team from Ohio would have been Akron, which was an auto bid from winning the MAC. 68 teams, only 1 team, 2 teams technically from the state of Ohio. Unbelievable. I did see that, with Akron making it, or with Xavier getting the at-large bid, it ended up keeping the streak going. What I thought was going to happen, it would have been the first time since 1981 where there would have been an NCAA tournament that would not feature Dayton, Xavier, Cincinnati, or Ohio State. Obviously, no Cincinnati. They accepted an invite to the Crown tournament, which will be later on in the month. I think that's a disaster. The tournament itself, I give credits. I give credit to a lot of teams who opt into these tournaments around now, especially teams that. You put it all out there. You battle for 4 months. You try to go for one more run in the conference tournament. Your dreams are shattered. You don't get to hear a name on Selection Sunday, and then you have the B or the C level tournament calling you, asking you to go, and you don't really want to go. But by declining it, you're just quitting on the season. There's still more season to be had. Now, some teams do it because, of course, they may not have the roster to be able to do it. Others throw temper tantrums and just feel like they're too good to play in it. I thought Dayton was going to reject the NIT invite. I'm glad that they did do it. I saw a lot of fans that were mad that they accepted the invite. If you're one of those Dayton Flyer fans that is mad that your team accepted the NIT invite, I don't understand people like you, to be honest with you. I don't get it. I don't get it. I know you're upset your team didn't make the NCAA tournament, but stop acting like your program is too good for the NIT. The majority of your team's championship success stems back to the NIT. So I'm glad that Dayton accepted the invite. I really am. Ohio State turned down the Crown invite. That I don't agree with. I think that's messed up. So, look, the Crown tournament is one of those where you get 2 teams from the Big East, 2 teams from the Big 10, 2 teams from the Big 12. All right, and there's some A10 teams in there as well. I think George Washington's in the Crown and all this. And, I think George Mason, and this is what I don't get about the NIT and how it's seated. Like, I think that, Dayton, I think uses some of their little political power, if you will. I don't know how they're a 1 seed when George Mason is a 2 seed. George Mason was seated higher in the A10 tournament than the NIT. George Mason made it further in the A10 tournament than the Dayton Flyers, the 1 seed. Doesn't make any sense. George Mason's a better team than Dayton. They should be ranked higher, but it is what it is. I don't know. We'll see if these rosters can stay together. I think the NIT will get a champion in the NIT. I'm really fascinated to see how many of these Crown teams actually have a roster by the time we even get to that here in a few weeks. What a disaster. What a dumb idea. What an absolute silly idea. All right, let's move over to the Bengals. Bengals reached an extension with wide receiver Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. 2 of the NFL's most prominent wide receivers will now be with the Bengals for the foreseeable future. ESPN's Ben Baby releases this report last night as it was officially made official. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins told Fox Sports on Sunday that they have agreed to contract extensions. Chase agreed to a 4-year, $161 million deal that includes $112 million in guaranteed money. T. Higgins agreed to a 4-year, $150 million deal that is guaranteed for the first 2 years, being told to Fox Sports. Chase's deal has an annual average of about $40+ million, setting an NFL record for the highest average annual salary for a non-quarterback. You have the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, in Joe Burrow and now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL in Jamar Chase. And I see a lot of Bengals fans chirping. By the way, last week you guys were all burying your team and piling on your team. And now you're pumping your chest saying, where are the haters at? Look in the mirror. You guys, everything. I mean, I don't think the Bengals paying these guys proves anybody wrong. The only thing that the Bengals have done is just prove how dumb that the organization is for how they handle this stuff. They ended up paying way more money for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase than they have to. And that's not really a hill I'm willing to die on. I will say, if you guys are expecting me to bury your team, here's where I'll meet you halfway. Good for them for getting it done. Jamar Chase needed to be taken care of. I'm still not a fan of the T. Higgins signing. Oh, but Kenner, you're just not a fan of that because you were wrong. You said that they wouldn't sign T. Higgins. You're right, I did. And there's a lot of people out there that did not believe that the Bengals would sign T. Higgins either. And it's not because I thought that they were cheap. And it's not because I didn't think T. Higgins was good enough to get that extension. And I don't think many people thought that to be the case either. I think the reason so many people thought it was a silly idea to sign Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to a long-term extension is because good, well-run franchises haven't been able to find a way to build a roster with over 40% of your cap going to 3 players all on one side of the ball without any of those dollars going to the men up front that protect the quarterback, that keeps them upright to get it to the star wide receivers, and no money going on the defensive side of the ball either right now. So I'm not mad that I was wrong. My take was based on common sense and how pretty much every other team in the NFL operates on how they build a roster. And excuse me for being a little skeptical, for not really trusting the Bengals front office and me thinking that they have the brain power in there to get this done. Now you're saying, what do you mean they got it done? Getting it done means it working. And it working for the Bengals means Joe Burrow getting his, Jamar Chase getting his, T getting his, and you guys getting yours. Because what it feels like right now is a wait and see for me. I think this was the wrong approach. I think Cincinnati, the second T. Higgins signed his deal, that was the second that Joe Burrow became the general manager of this franchise. And I think that is a dangerous precedent to set. Joe Burrow knows way more about football than I do, but I do question his common sense and logic when you put up all those numbers that you did last year and you spent more time bitching and moaning and crying and complaining about getting your wide receivers taken care of instead of actually focusing on what really led to you guys missing the playoffs last year and the year before, your stinky defense. Now, the reason I'm going to wait on a hot take on this is because they still have cap space left. They still have an opportunity to go add. Why they've waited 2 weeks into free agency before they really start to improve this team, I don't know. But what this move does is it takes what is already a bad front office and puts them in a position to have to be a perfect front office. That's what I don't like about this. All right. I'm not trying to be a hater here. This is exactly what I would say about any franchise out there that's like the Cincinnati Bengals. And it's a bad one. Your franchise is not good. The Browns franchise is not good either. Let me beat you guys to the punch. Your franchise stinks. It's as simple as that. What you've done with these contracts is you have put makeup on a pig. You have made that ugly franchise look a little prettier by putting some makeup on her. And the makeup being Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and T. Higgins. But when you take that makeup off, you got a pig. And that pig oinks and oinks a lot. And I got to see that this pig is actually pretty before I truly believe it. I think this is all I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. You guys are acting like you won something. I don't know if you have. You guys spent a lot of effort and energy to bring back the exact same team that has missed the playoffs for 2 straight years. You guys watched a team that put up 30-plus points a game. Joe Burrow throwing for over 4,700 yards, 40 touchdowns. You watched Jamar Chase have a triple crown year. You watched T. Higgins finally stay healthy for more than 95% of the season. You watched all of that happen, and you watched them miss the playoffs as well. And you said, you know what? Let's spend 90% of our offseason focusing on bringing back every key pillar that has led us to back-to-back non-playoff seasons and we'll just fix everything in the draft. The same draft that has continuously set you back year after year after year. What this deal does with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins has put the Bengals in a position where they have to be something that they have never been, and that is perfect. You have, 7 draft picks coming up? You have to be perfect. 7 draft picks, possibly more. I have to go and look. But let's just say you have 7 draft picks. How many of those have to be legitimate day one starters for this money that was just spent on these guys to be worth it? Because the other thing is, it's not like you've been spending heavy dollars elsewhere. You've been cheap at linebacker. You've been cheap on the defensive line. And, well, don't worry, Kenner. They're working on a deal now to bring Trey Hendrickson back. Great. You're bringing the band back together. 9-8. Missing the playoffs. Back-to-back years. Cost Joe Burrow an MVP. I mean, here's the deal. Joe Burrow, fantastic. Jamar Chase, love that deal. T. Higgins, it was a ginormous mistake. Signing T. Higgins, to me, I am not saying it is right now. I'm telling you what I think it's going to be. I think there's a difference. I'm going to be less definitive with the way I say this. I think this is going to be a disaster for the Cincinnati Bengals. And you're not going to notice it up front because you're going to be oohed and awed by the big stats. You're going to see Joe Burrow's 400-yard games. You're going to see the games where Jamar Chase has 2 touchdowns, 150 yards, and a touchdown and a 120-yard performance from T. Higgins. And you guys are going to be mesmerized by it. Just like you were last year. In the year before, when you're like, man, we were without Joe Burrow. We still won 9 games. That's fantastic. 2 straight years out of the playoffs with one of the best. I mean, who misses the playoffs with elite quarterbacks? Your team. That's tough to do. The Chiefs, with an elite quarterback, accidentally won 15 games this year, 14 games. They got exposed in the Super Bowl. Their elite quarterback, they accidentally won games. I mean, that's how easy, when you have an elite quarterback, you accidentally win games. The Bengals don't accidentally win anything. So we'll see. Now, to be 1,000,000% serious here, good for the Bengals for getting it done, but what the hell took so long? And you guys can be frustrated with my take on this, but the bottom line at the end of the day is it's a wait and see thing for me. If I would have respected the Bengals so much more to give Jamar Chase $40.25 million, highest paid non-quarterback in the league, and tell T. Higgins, we're not moving on from you because we don't believe in you. We're moving on from you because it doesn't make sense to pipe in $70 million a year to 2 wide receivers when we have so many holes on defense, so many question marks on the offensive line. We can't run the damn football. And, oh, yeah, we always want to fire our coach 4 games into the season. But, yes, let's give every single available resource we have to our wide receivers. I mean, Joe Burrow is too good of a quarterback for you to feel like you had to pump in money to those 2 wide receivers. That's crazy to me. When you have average quarterbacks, desperate teams do this. But when you have an elite quarterback, I mean, do the Bengals not trust that Joe Burrow can go elevate talent? Now, I've asked this before. Who has Joe Burrow elevated? And the answer is nobody. Who's that player that was a nobody before and is a somebody now because of him? Oh, Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki was okay last year. Mike Gesicki was okay the previous 2 years before coming to Cincinnati. T was already great no matter who's throwing him the football. Same thing with Jamar. But to sum up, because now I'm getting in that rambling stage here, I think this was a mistake. I really do. Paying Jamar was not the mistake. Paying T. Higgins, I think, was a huge mistake. But Adam on Facebook, what up, Adam? Says, apologies if you've said this already, but would it have been a better idea to franchise T for the year? Yes and no. I would have made him available for a trade. People bring up all the time that the Eagles, that they have Devontae Adams and they have A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith, I'm sorry. That they have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. The Eagles also had little to no holes on defense. You know what I mean? Like the Eagles had one of the best offensive lines in football. The Eagles went out and got Obviously Saquon Barkley. But those are the things, like, you're able to do luxury things when your bills are paid. The Bengals bills are not paid. You know what I mean? Like, Adam Seltzer says, the Eagles defense is basically all on rookie contracts. Yeah, their defense, by the way, that was the cool thing about the Eagles defense, is they pretty much drafted, I think all but one player on the defensive side of the ball was drafted by the Eagles over the last couple of years. Like, that's pretty fascinating. And that's what I meant about the Bengals. By giving this much money to these two wide receivers, along with having the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, you've now forced your franchise to have to be perfect. You have to go be the Eagles. And the Bengals are a lot of things. They are not even close to being the Eagles. And I think that, that's the thing right now with the Bengals. They have so many other deficiencies. How can you prioritize T. Higgins over those deficiencies? T. Higgins was your get out of jail free card. Trade T. Higgins and use the money you save on trading T. Higgins and the draft capital you get in return for T. Higgins and slap that on the defensive side of the ball. So now Joe Burrow might take a step back offensively statistically. So instead of throwing for 4,700 yards, maybe he throws for 4,300 yards. And instead of 45 touchdowns, he throws for 38 touchdowns. But guess what? The guy's still going to win an MVP, because now people who truly comprehend football understand that, well, now they're going to have the lead more, which means they can hand the ball off more, which means he won't have to throw 30 more times, which, by the way, go look at it. He threw the ball 30 more times than everybody else in the league. So the 4,700 yards he threw, I would expect when you throw 30 more times than everybody else that you do have to throw for that many yards. When your team's trailing as much as they were and you don't run the football that much, I would hope that the passing numbers are through the roof like that. The passing numbers were inflated due to the circumstance of the Bengals not being a very good football team. They couldn't stop anybody and they couldn't run the football. And what I mean by they couldn't run the football, they couldn't run the football because you're trailing and you're trying to get into scoring position and score the football. Move on from T. Higgins. Get those pieces. Improve the defense. Have less Joe Burrow out on the field is a good thing. Let the defense take care of business. Let the run game take care of some stuff. Let the defense take care of some stuff. Joe Burrow could throw for 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns, have a lesser statistical season than last year, this upcoming year, and win an MVP because they're going to win 12 to 13 games because you're an actual balanced football team. But now you're a Big 12 football team. 2 elite wide receivers, elite quarterback, put up a lot of points, but hopefully the amount of points, all those points you put up, is enough to win shootouts every single week. Adam Seltzer brings up the Eagles. The fact that they brought back, Slay on a huge discount after releasing him. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. Players I don't know, man. The Eagles, I don't even like using them in a comparison with the Bengals because it's not. To me, that would be like, well, I don't know why the Reds couldn't keep. I don't know why the Reds couldn't keep, Ellie De La Cruz. I mean, the Dodgers keep their star players. The Reds and Dodgers are not playing by the same rules, and that's the same thing with the Eagles. But now, let me say this. None of my opinions are because I think Joe Burrow is overrated or T is overrated or Jamar is overrated. I think this was a mistake. This isn't a hate or take. This was a mistake from a roster construction standpoint. I just don't see how this is a good thing because the Bengals operated for years with Joe Burrow, with him on a rookie deal, with Jamar on a rookie deal, with T on a rookie deal, with your best players on a rookie deal. You couldn't spend enough money or draft well enough to put a consistent contender on the field. Now, after back-to-back horrible drafts, after paying your 3 best players beyond market value dollar amounts, now you have to be perfect in the draft. Now you have to hit on every mid-tier free agent that you get because you refuse to go after the high-end free agents. Cincinnati's in trouble. I don't see how this is a good thing. And you're just going to chalk it up to me being a hater. But I promised you I'm not being a hater. I would say it if it was the Browns. I'd say if it was anybody else. I've never said the Bengals are cheap. I said they spend money silly. And I think that this was silly. Not Jamar. I love that they paid Joe Burrow what they did. He deserved it. Jamar Chase deserves his money. T. Higgins deserves his money. But if you notice, did you notice Joe Burrow took every dollar that came to him? Did you notice that Jamar Chase took every dollar and then some coming to him? Did you notice T. Higgins? There was a little shaved off, $28 million as opposed to the $30+ million that he was supposed to get out of the free agent market. But yet, the selfish quarterback of Joe Burrow spending the last 6 months saying, we need T. Higgins, we need T. Higgins, Jamar Chase saying, we need T. Higgins, we need T. Higgins, then why is T the only one that took a discount? It's a good thing Joe Burrow is a great quarterback. It's a good thing Jamar Chase is a elite wide receiver because both of them are crappy friends. It may just be a couple million, but maybe that's $1 million that Jamar could have taken less of. Maybe that's $1 million that Joe Burrow could have taken less of. But I'm disgusted at the fact that T. Higgins didn't get into the 30 million range. Why is he taking a discount to play with those guys when they've spent 6 months telling him how much they need him? Good for T. Higgins, though. He wanted to play in Cincinnati. He wanted to play with Burrow. He took that Burrow tax. I just think that was the wrong move. I would have respected it more if the other guys took a little off. Joe Burrow didn't take a hometown discount like y'all thought he would. Jamar Chase didn't do that either. I mean, good for him. 41. You guys have a wide receiver for $41.25 million. Unbelievable. Let's go to Bob Love. Mr. Bob Love, welcome, sir. You're on live.
Justin. You know what? Sometimes you just keep talking and talking, but you just talk yourself out of some common sense things that you really know better than. First of all, your comment last week was the Bengals do not have money. Did you not say that? Because remember the escrow.
Yeah.
You said they couldn't do it because they do not have money. And, they just got everybody in the NFL, I believe it was like about a $400 million stipend from their TV contract. Everybody, I don't care how poor you are in the NFL, everybody's got money. So that's not true. So that's number one. The other point that you made, defense, good defense. Let me give the example since you like to compare the Bengals and the Browns all the time. Which I don't know why you do that. Nobody cares.
I don't know why I do that either. I think it's because I don't. I don't think I don't compare the Browns and Bengals. They're not similar.
No. You'll say a Bengal thing. You got to bring up the Browns.
No. I think you guys do that. You guys do that.
No, Justin. I don't hear nobody on the show doing that. Now maybe they're doing it on the comments. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
But I don't hear it on your show. I just hear you. So. Here's what I'm going to say. I am going to bring up the Browns, not as a comparison, but let me bring up the Browns. 2 years ago, remember where was the Browns defense 2 years ago? And they like number one, at least top five, right?
They were number one. Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Last year, where was the Browns defense last year?
Middle of the pack. They took a major step back.
Okay. And you know what that means? It doesn't carry over. 1 year to the next doesn't carry up. Just because the Bengals average, 55 points a game, that doesn't mean it's going to carry over to the next year. That stuff doesn't carry over. It just depends on what you do. And this is my point about the Bengals. At the beginning of the year, when the Bengals were giving up, 35, 40 points a game, the last 5 games of the year, when they had to have it, when Lou Anarumo finally sat down Sam Hubbard and Von Bell, and they started playing their draft choices, when the Bengals won 5 games in a row, you know how much their defense was giving up then?
You know who they played? You know who they were playing?
Yeah.
Cooper Rush.
Yeah,
They were playing by the way, they played Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys. They played at a certain point. It started looking like I was looking at the draft order because they played Cooper Rush. Denver. They played the Titans. They played the Browns. Yes, their defense played a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. And Bo Nix threw all over them, by the way. Bo Nix threw all over them. And then they played the Steelers. They didn't shut down anybody. They played teams that have been shut down themselves all season.
Listen to my point. It didn't matter who they played at the beginning of the year. They were still giving up 40. They could have been playing Justin Kinner, and they were still giving up points. So you can't pick and choose.
No, they didn't give up points to bad teams. They gave up 17 points to the Giants, or 7 points to the Giants. They gave up 14 points to the Browns earlier in the year. When they played good teams, they got punched in the mouth.
They were giving up 28 points a game. 28 points a game before the last 5 games. When he started, he was forced pretty much to start playing his draft choices.
Or because you were playing Justin Herbert, you were playing Lamar Jackson, you were playing Jalen Hurts, right? I think that matters. I think that matters.
So are they NFL players?
Those are the good NFL players.
Are they NFL players?
Those are the good NFL players.
Yes, they are. Well, the point is they went from giving up 27 a game to 18.
Because they played the bad NFL players.
Okay.
So you're fine with the Bengals defense. You think the Bengals have
No. You're not listening. You're not listening. No, it doesn't carry over, is my point. You can't say, well, this is what we were this year. Next year, this is what we're going to be. It doesn't carry over.
So, but what are you saying then? So your defense that was just so God almighty the last 5 weeks of the season going to carry over to next year then? Because what are we talking about that for?
I'm saying when you're playing better players instead of players that can't play. Lou Anarumo hung on to guys who were good in 2021. They weren't good in 2024, but he was stubborn. That's why he doesn't have a job. It's not that he's a bad defensive coordinator. He was stubborn, and he refused to play the draft pick. He's red-shirting people. You don't red-shirt people in the NFL. This ain't college basketball. What are you doing?
So they just weren't playing good players. They just weren't playing good players, in your opinion?
They weren't playing better players. Sam Hubbard, one leg. Von Bell. These dudes couldn't play anymore.
Who was better than those two? Who was better than those two?
Joseph Osai was better. Was Joseph Osai not better?
I mean, I'm taller than a fifth grader. I'm not tall. 5 sacks in the last 7 games. 5 sacks when he started playing against the Titans, against the Browns. I'm just saying.
Against high school. So the point is, my main point is, it doesn't carry over. So you don't know what's going to be what. They were better the last 5 games of the year when they had to have it, and they did play. You can call Pittsburgh whatever you want to call them, but they played 2 teams that were in the playoffs. Denver, they beat them, and they beat Pittsburgh too. They played the Titans, and the Browns. Maybe I think the Browns were maybe in the last 5 games. I can't remember. But the point is, and the first thing that you say is, "I'm not a hater." Anytime somebody got to keep saying that, nobody's calling you a hater, but you keep saying that.
No, I have to say that because what y'all do is when I bring up facts and points, you discount it and say, "Oh, well, no, you're just a hater." So I got to remind you, I'm not a hater. Me pointing out that you played the draft order the final month of the season is not hating. Those are just facts. You played the Titans, and you played the Browns.
Denver, Pittsburgh, yeah. Right? Denver, Pittsburgh, right?
Rookie quarterback. Okay. Rookie quarterback, not good, and the Steelers offense. You remember the Steelers offense? You remember how bad that Steelers offense was that final month of the season? Ooh, baby.
They put up 44 on us previously. 2 games before, about 3 or 4 games before that.
When they had their starters. When everyone was banged up and hurt.
When they had Sam Hubbard, and they had Von Bell, and they had those guys playing. That's my point. Go back and look it up, man. I'm not making this stuff up. Go back and look it up.
I have it up.
What is it going to be this year? I don't know because it doesn't carry over. That's my point.
They've been bad for 2 straight years. It carried over 2 straight years. They're bringing back the same defense from last year. It's going to carry over next year too.
Who's been bad? Who's been bad for 2 straight years defensively?
Your team.
The Bengals. Yes. Why? Because
of the rollover defense.
No more. Because you're playing people that can't play anymore. And, we'll see. We'll see as it comes out in the wash. We'll see. But the point is, it doesn't carry over. Just like your Browns defense. You went from number 1 to number 20.
That's what happens when you get hurt.
With the same people. With the same people. You kept playing the same people. It doesn't carry over. That's my point. The money thing, stop saying NFL teams don't have money. They all have money.
By the way,
how poor you are.
Whatever money they did have, let's see how much money they spend moving forward. Because that's not a Kinner opinion. There's a lot of people that cover the Bengals, reputable non-haters that cover the Bengals that have told me that they don't have money. And there you go.
Let me make one more quick point.
All good.
Now
all love, Bob Love. All love for you, my friend.
Okay. And love for you too, man. This is the other point. Now you know how the salaries go. Signing with them, making the deal with T. Higgins, instead of them having $26 million come off the cap, his hit is going to be about 16. You know how that stuff goes. People look at it, they're going to be playing $70 million. No, they're not.
That Duke Tobin, he's a wizard, man.
They spread it out. Well, they all do that. That's how people can do that. That's why Philadelphia can have all them high salaries. Detroit can have all them high salaries. You just spread it out. You know that, man. Well, educate these people, Justin. You know better than that. I'm getting on you because you just come out here, you get all excited, you start throwing out a bunch of garbage, and then I got to come over here and clean it up, man. I'm tired of cleaning up your messes, Justin. Stop it, man.
You're not gonna ride up and down the street in a garbage truck, are you? Now you're gonna go.
might. All right, man. Good
All
talking to you,
love,
man.
Bob Love. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, bro. Bye.
All right, the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Oh, look at that. Time flies when you're having fun. 4:16. Well, I can't even see off that glare. 4:16 here in the Miami Valley. All right, serious conversations. And shout out to Bob. I love Bob. I love when y'all call in and you try to bring the heat. But I schooled Bob right there. Bob hung up. He gave up. He couldn't handle it. That's why he hung up. All right. But the bottom line is, I mean, are we really going to say that the Bengals have money? Are we really going to act like the Bengals they just schooled everybody on how they work these contracts in? Yeah. The front office. I'm going to trust the front office that ended up spending $20 million more than they had to, because apparently they have all this money. If they have all this money, why wouldn't they got these deals done sooner? I don't know. David Shaw says they save money by doing these contracts. That's the thing that makes no sense. Like I've said, the salary cap is fake. It makes sense. They saved money by getting these deals done, because when you do the extension, you can give a lot of that money up front. When you don't, that's why Cleveland is going to run into this with Deshaun. Like, they keep clearing up all this cap space over and over and over, because they just keep rolling over his money into a signing bonus. They give it to him up front. That money comes off the books. It frees up more money to spend in free agency. The only way this works is if you just keep extending it to a certain point, and then at one point you're going to have to eat it. By the way, that's what happened right now with the Saints. The Saints could have cut Derek Carr, but they ultimately decided to give him an extension to keep him. They gave him the extension not because they value him at quarterback, but it's because they had no choice. Because if they ultimately cut Derek Carr, that money is going to go up against the cap, and you can't restructure a contract that you just released. So that's what a lot of this is as far as that goes. That's the other reason why I knew that the Browns were not going to trade Myles Garrett. I was not surprised by the Myles Garrett signing, because if Cleveland just outright cut him, there would have been a $40 million dead cap hit again that they could not have restructured, because he's not on the roster. So the Browns said, you know what? We're going to be in such cap hell a couple years from now anyways. Let's just deal with one hellacious offseason all at the same time with the Watson's contract coming up, and then with obviously Myles Garrett down the road. They'll deal with all that later. But they restructured Watson's contract. They restructured Myles Garrett with the extension. The cap is real. It's just you can keep kicking the can down. It's like student loan debt. Just keep paying $1 every month on it. The debt's real. It'll catch up with you eventually. Or you just die before. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that. The cap is real. But some just have much smarter general managers and front office personnel to kind of navigate through it. Adam Seltzer says the Denver Broncos also, when they had to eat Russell Wilson's contract. Yes. And that's the thing that people don't understand. This past year for Denver was supposed to be hell. It was supposed to be horrible. That's why they moved on from Jerry Jeudy and others. They moved on from a bunch of pieces. That's why they moved on from Simmons, and they moved on from these guys, because they knew that they were anticipating being bad. Their defense was healthy and really, really good, and the offense was not very good, but it was just enough to be dangerous. The Broncos had a good season, because what ended up happening was you get Bo Nix. Bo Nix was not like, Lamar's rookie year, Joe Burrow's rookie year. He wasn't elite or lights out, but he gave them $40 million worth of production as a rookie quarterback. And the Browns this year, for them to survive this Deshaun Watson thing, if they draft Shedeur Sanders, they have to get a $40 to $50 million production from him to offset Deshaun's money. That's why I'm like, if you draft a rookie quarterback, you're never going to get to truly benefit from the rookie contract scale, because you're just using it to offset the bad contract of Deshaun Watson. So Cleveland will never really get to truly navigate that the way other teams have been able to. But I do not expect y'all to feel sorry for the Cleveland Browns, because I don't, as far as that goes. But either way, all right, I'm behind. Shout out to Bob Love. He got me all distracted, I love a good argument. And since Kev's not here, I don't know who to argue with. Bob Love, and Shaw. Shaw, you disgust me. You've been nice. He shows up to shows. He acts as an on-site engineer. He's helping with the sound issues. What happened to the old Shaw that we would just argue the second we looked at one another? I don't like when you're nice. Get over yourself. It's disgusting. So the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. We will be right back. We'll pick up with this conversation next.
hot takes?
No, I'm not going to apologize to Ryan Day. Everything we said about Ryan Day up until the playoffs was true.
Not bad. Come on, Kenner. You can do better than that.
To be fair, of all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow is the least accomplished.
Getting better.
1,000,000%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them.
There it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
That's right. The Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on a Monday, 1410 ESPN Radio. Stop on out at one of your local neighborhood Frickers for their frickin' chicken lunch combo for $10.99. The frickin' lunch combo features many options such as frickin' chicken chunks, cheeseburgers, charbroiled chicken wrap, and the fried chicken wrap. You also get a side and a drink, all for $10.99. The frickin' lunch combo is available Monday through Friday. Dine in or carry out between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. I'm Justin Kinner, back with you here. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Selection Sunday yesterday. I was thinking about this. I work with the guys over at Chatterbox. We do Off the Bench. Today, Reed, shout out to Reed Mouse. He filled in for me. He's a Xavier fan. And I am curious, so yesterday, I think a lot of UD fans, you guys just figured your name would not be called. You figured that your name would not be called on Selection Sunday. And I get that, So, you weren't really anticipating anything. You weren't anticipating any surprises. But think about, North Carolina fans. A lot of North Carolina fans tuned into Selection Sunday feeling probably like you guys did. A lot of Xavier fans tuned into yesterday's Selection Sunday show just like you did, not expecting anything, just to be disappointed. But what is better? Expecting your team's name on Selection Sunday, knowing your team, if Dayton would have actually done something they don't normally do during the AG era and actually follow through on a season and close it out the way they're supposed to. If you knew that your name was about to be called on Selection Sunday, there's no better joy than seeing your name pop up on the bracket, right? But it's coming. How cool was it to be a Xavier fan yesterday? I know a lot of people in this city don't care about Xavier. But how cool was that to be a Xavier fan yesterday, not expecting your team's name to be called and it being called? How cool was it to be North Carolina yesterday, a fan of the Tar Heels? Small school, not a lot of fan base, so who cares, right? Excuse me, when you don't expect that, I can't imagine how cool that was yesterday. We're surprised about their name popping up. How do you think that their fans feel? So I think it's pretty cool. I think that's pretty neat. It does stink when you expect to hear your name be called and it doesn't get called. Like West Virginia. West Virginia is doing something that I can't stand. They're doing something that Dayton did in 2020. They're doing something that UCF did when they didn't get their way. You know what I mean? When teams don't get their way and they just anoint themselves as national champions or they throw temper tantrums, I don't sympathize with that. I don't sympathize with it because if you just missed the tournament, that means that pointless non-conference game that you lost in November meant something. That pointless game on the road, and you played 3 games in 6 and 7 days, and you're tired, and you go out there knowing you have all these excuses to lose this game. That game meant something. Win one more game. Dive for one more loose ball. Box out one more time. Get one more rebound hit. One more free throw hit. One more shot hit. One more layup. When it gets to Selection Sunday, we have had all of November, December, January, and February to dissect who you are as a program. I don't feel bad for any team that misses the tournament. I just don't. I don't. I love the mid-major conferences where you have to win your conference tournament to get in. I love that. I hate conference tournaments for high major programs. I spent a lot of time, and actually I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to that coming up in a moment. But West Virginia misses the NCAA tournament. Very good resume. I think they had double-digit combined quad 1 and 2 wins on the season. Should they have been in? Probably. But you didn't do enough. You didn't do enough. At the end of the day, you just didn't do enough. So 6 quad 1 wins. So Tommy, what up, Tommy? Tommy Pennington. West Virginia had 6 quad 1 wins. UNC getting in is a joke. UNC, so that's the thing too. We pick and choose. Quad 2 wins are very good as well. Quad 1 wins carry the most weight, no doubt about it. But you want quad 1 and 2 wins. And I look at the quad 1, I look at the quad system, guys. If you can entertain this for a minute, I look at it like recruiting with the 4s and the 5 stars. You want 5 stars, but the 4 stars, you have a better chance at piling up the 4 stars than you do the 5 stars. So you better hope that you have a lot of 4 stars, right? What about those schools that have 6 5 stars, 2 4 stars, and a bunch of, 3 and 2 stars? Or the team that has 2 5 stars, but they have 8 4 stars and they have 5 3 stars. And I like that team better. So while you guys focus so much on the quad 1 wins, I'm curious what your quad 1 mixed with your quad 2 does. Because I think the lifeblood of recruiting is your 4s and your 5s. And I think the lifeblood of your resume is your 4s, is your 1s and your 2s quad win, when it comes to the quad wins. North Carolina had a net ranking. When you looked at the teams, I have to pull this up real quick. I was looking at all the teams, the first 4 in and the first 4 out. So obviously the last 4 in, Texas, Xavier, San Diego State, North Carolina. The net ranking is one of the, when you look at the quad 1s and 2s and the net ranking, that stuff matters a ton. That's why it's brought up the quad 1 wins. That's why the way Dayton does their schedule, it's very, I could respect it. I don't like it, but I respect why they schedule the way that they do. I hate that they don't play Wright State. I think it's cowardly. I do think that there are some donors that control that athletics department more than the actual athletic director, but that's an argument for another day. There is a business approach to, well, we don't just put someone on the schedule to put them on the schedule. It has to put us in position to build an at-large resume. So I can respect that to a certain degree when that's actually the reasons for how they put their schedule together. You want to get that high net ranking, and you want to build up those quad 1s and 2s. Okay. So Tommy says North Carolina getting in is a joke. I'm not a UNC fan. I'm not even going to the first 4 the night that UNC's playing. So I don't really care that UNC's. I think it's great that UNC's a program that's in the first 4. Don't get me wrong. I think it's cool for the Miami Valley. But the net ranking carries so much weight. Guys, Texas had a net ranking of 39. Xavier had a net ranking of 45. San Diego State had a net ranking of 52. If you go over, West Virginia had a net ranking of 51. Indiana had a 54 net ranking. A 41 net ranking for Ohio State. Boise had a net ranking of 44. You want to know who had the best net ranking of all the teams, the last 4 in and the first 4 out? North Carolina. North Carolina had a higher net ranking, had a significantly better net ranking than Xavier, Texas, San Diego State, who made it, and they had a much better net ranking than West Virginia. West Virginia's net ranking came in at 51. North Carolina came in at 36. Now, that's the one metric that shows us a big-time gap between West Virginia and North Carolina. I don't mind that North Carolina got in. I don't mind that West Virginia got left out, because we're talking about teams on lines that you had more time to prove that you were better than the lines that made you vulnerable to miss the tournament to begin with. I don't feel bad for West Virginia, and here's why. I hate when teams like UCF years ago, when they go undefeated and miss the playoff, they throw a parade and hang up national championship banners. I think that is cowardly. I think that creates and sets a bad attitude moving forward, a victim mentality. Sports is supposed to be about teaching life lessons, and one of the most important life lessons that you can learn at an early age, and I did, you don't always get what you want, and life's not fair. And guess what? UCF, years ago, you go undefeated, you beat a Power 5 school, but you still played a bunch of nobodies in the conference schedule. You missed the playoff undefeated. You did go on to beat Auburn. That's great. But you weren't a playoff team, and you sure as hell weren't a national championship team, so stop waving a banner and claiming to be national champions. I think that's soft. COVID hits. Millions of people are dying all over the place, and Dayton is throwing a temper tantrum because you cost us a chance to win a national championship. Stop it. Stop it. You weren't a victim. Oh, you weren't a real victim in that. You were a sports victim. Real life was happening. A national championship was not taken away from the Dayton Flyers in 2020. You haven't won the A10 tournament since 2003, but I'm supposed to believe that year, not only were you going to do something you haven't done since 2003, you were going to win the NCAA tournament as well. Not buying into that. Nothing was taken from you. It was an unfortunate circumstance. West Virginia is now doing what I hate, throwing a temper tantrum. This is why I can't get on board with Florida State, by the way. Florida State, the committee showed all of the bullet points for how they have the right to use a key injury against a team late in the season to decide whether they make the playoff or not. Florida State blew everybody out when they had their quarterback, and when Travis, their quarterback, gets hurt and he's out and they're putting up 20 less than that points per game and they're just horrendous to watch, they used it against them. They kept him out. They were justified in doing so. What do? Their head coach threw a temper tantrum. All their they opted out of a bowl game. They didn't want anything to do with the bowl game. They quit. They just quit. They left. They didn't opt out of the bowl game, but all their guys basically quit and they ended up getting their behinds kicked. But you know what I mean? And it set the tone. I don't respect teams and programs and grown adults and coaches who throw temper tantrums. It's your job to teach these young kids life lessons that you're not always going to get what you want, that sometimes life is going to fail you. And if the worst thing in life is, oh man, I didn't make that tournament, talk to people who have had real life struggles, talk to them and ask if they feel bad for you because, oh man, I didn't get to continue dribbling a basketball for a week. Boo-hoo. West Virginia right now is in the midst of throwing a national temper tantrum. West Virginia's governor is taking legal action against the NCAA selection committee over leaving the Mountaineers out of the tournament. The National Corrupt Athletic Association is what they're referring to it as. That's a great precedent to set. Man, if you don't pick me for your sports team, if you don't pick me for your tournament, if you don't pick me for this job, I'm going to sue you. Yeah, West Virginia, I don't sympathize with you. I sympathized with you a little bit yesterday. I don't sympathize with you today. Your governor's suing the selection committee for not picking your team. Give me a break. All right. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Step away for a few moments. We'll go back into the Cincinnati Bengals side of this conversation. I see a couple people weighing in on that. I want to make sure I get to some of your responses there. We got a Reds conversation to get into. The injury bug starting to creep its way into Reds camp. We're also getting closer and closer to the Cincinnati Reds playing the Dayton Dragons at Dare Ballpark coming up pretty soon. Opening day is, is that a week from this Thursday? It is. We're getting close, baby. We're getting closer and closer. How about that? We'll talk some Reds. We'll talk some more Bengals coming up around the corner. Get to all of that when we come back. We'll talk some more UD college basketball as well. More of the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers next.
You wake up feeling like you just boxed 12 rounds.
4:45 here in the Miami Valley. We welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. All right, it's tax season. Tax season's here, and I'm sure you're thinking about, if you're like me, now some of you who are mature adults probably got your taxes filed early and did it on time. Good for you. But man, it's March 17th. We're getting closer and closer to that tax deadline. And if you're like me, you probably wait to the last second. Well, luckily, I have a very good friend, Michael Maxwell with Arrowhead Tax Service, who every time I wait to the last minute, which it looks like it's about to happen again, he bails me out. He gets me in there. He takes care of everything. And of course, the cool thing is you could send in all your tax documentation to him. He takes care of it remote, tells you when you can come sign everything and pick it up. I think that's very convenient, pretty neat. The Taxes to Go app, pretty cool. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of cool ways that he makes this a very seamless and easy process. Arrowhead Tax Service, again, located at 113 West Jefferson Street in New Carlisle. Arrowhead Tax Service gives back to the community through athletics and nonprofits, and all new clients save 10% off online at arrowheadtaxservice.com, where their target is your satisfaction. Again, Arrowhead Tax Service. I don't know. I do know that, like, obviously, we love all of our sponsors and clients, but I can't tell you how many people do come up around this time and ask about Arrowhead Tax Service, about who does my taxes. That tax spot you guys do, who is it again? We give out that information a ton. It does seem like now's around the time that a lot of you start panicking and having to get that done. Arrowhead Tax Service, and let them know that you heard the spot right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Let's talk about Jamar Chase again and T. Higgins. So Jamar Chase's new contract extension of 4 years, $161 million, makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Now, we thought that this was going to be the case 2 weeks ago when that bar was at $36 million when Max Crosby got that deal done by the Raiders. And you know, everyone freaked out, saying, man, if the Bengals would have just got it done at 35.25, he would have been fine. Now they've cost themselves $1.5 million. Then you waited another 4 days, and then Myles Garrett became the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL at $40 million, and now Jamar Chase is getting an annual average salary of $40.25 million. So Jamar Chase at $40.25 million, highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. That's higher than Myles Garrett at $40 million, Max Crosby at $36 million, Justin Jefferson at $35 million, Nick Bosa $34.2 million, and wide receiver CeeDee Lamb at $34 million. Keep in mind, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, we're all on equal playing ground as far as contract negotiations go. Like, we knew that Justin Jefferson was going to get taken care of first, but we thought that it would all be within about $1 to $2 million of one another. The Dallas Cowboys have a number one wide receiver making $34 million. That's a steal right now. You look at, of course, the Vikings having Justin Jefferson at $35 million. That looks like a bargain right now. And you look at a team in the Cincinnati Bengals who are paying their number one wide receiver $40.3 million and then $28 million to T. Higgins. I mean, my gosh, we're talking $70 million to two wide receivers. And you spend, I think, about $8 million, about $3 or $4 million a year on Gesicki. So we're talking about $73 million a year just on three pass catchers. Plus, you're going to throw in the fact that you're spending about $140 million when you add in Joe Burrow. And now $250 is the salary cap. So now you have $110 million to fill out the rest of your roster, and you're still working out a deal to get, obviously, Trey Hendrickson taken care of. And, oh, yeah, you pretty much have every hole on defense to fill. You have an offensive line you have to fix. You have a run game you have to fix. You're probably going to have a whole new coaching staff after this upcoming season if they miss the playoffs or only get in through the wild card and don't win the division. And the people crying about this, you know, the play calling, this and the other. You know, who knows? I said this earlier. The biggest problem I have with the decision to bring T. Higgins back, I have no problem with the Jamar Chase deal. That's a generational wide receiver. You can't let that guy walk out. You could let T. Higgins walk out because now what you have done is you have put the Bengals in a position where they have to be perfect. When you're spending that much money on two pass catchers and you don't have a tight end, you don't have an offensive line, you don't have a run game, you don't have a defense. As of right now, you don't even have a number one pass rusher because you have yet to get an extension done with Trey Hendrickson, and I don't know if they do. Tommy Pennington, Chase Brown is pretty good. Well, Bengals run game is not. So maybe like Bob Love said, maybe maybe bad won't carry over into next year. Maybe Chase Brown in the run game just magically good again. I don't know. I don't know. But what this deal does with T. Higgins is now the Bengals have to be perfect. Every free agent signing moving forward, they have to hit. They have to nail it. Every draft pick, they have to nail it. You have 7 draft picks. Let me go to there. I want to make sure. As far as the Bengals go, I want to see how many draft picks they have coming up. They don't have that updated on here yet. So at the bare minimum, okay, here it is. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 6. That's right. You only have 6 draft picks because you gave up a 7th rounder to get a running back last year, which flamed out. So you have 6 draft picks. You have 1 first, 1 second, 1 third, 1 fourth, 1 fifth, 1 sixth. Cool. So you don't even have 7. You only have 6 draft picks this upcoming season. So that means of those 6 draft picks, you have to, I'm going to be honest, you need at least 4 to 5 of those 6 to hit. That means you only get 1 pick that you could really take a chance on not being good. You have to make sure that you have 4 to 5 starters / regular rotation guys that are playing heavy minutes and getting heavy snaps. My goodness. The T. Higgins extension has put them in a position where they have to be perfect. Every free agent. Keep in mind, they got to a Super Bowl because of the good decisions that they made. They got to a Super Bowl because you didn't have to spend real money. When your quarterback was on a rookie deal, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on a rookie deal, when Logan Wilson's on a rookie deal, and you move on and free up money because you moved on from Jesse Bates and Trey Hendrickson, who you got for a steal at the time. Look at what these pass rushers are getting paid. They weren't spending any, they weren't spending any heavy dollars on those. They were able to go put in the money for those depth pieces. Like, things are hard now. You have to hit every free agent. You whiffed on bringing back Bell. Right? You whiffed on that. Sheldon Rankins was a complete disaster. You look at the safety that they brought in from Baltimore. Somehow they decided that bringing him back is going to make him better because he played really, really well against the Titans, who are drafting a quarterback, the Browns, who are drafting a quarterback, the Steelers, who moved on from both of their quarterbacks. Do I need to keep going? A rookie quarterback. Geno Stone was horrendous. Horrendous. So you can't keep having off seasons where you are signing free agents of the likes of a Geno Stone, of a Sheldon Rankins, where you're whiffing on guys like Eric All Jr., who's a very good tight end out of Iowa, but had injury concerns. And guess what? Injury out for the year. Wasted draft pick. You go out and you get Burton. Red flags all over the place. Character issues. This is a guy that could not, the Bengals, the arrogance of them thinking that they can make it work with Burton, who played for Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. You played for Alabama. You played for Georgia. You played for 2 college football dynasties at that time, and you couldn't find the motivation to want to play hard to be the best version of yourself for those guys, and you thought Zach Taylor was going to get the best out of them, so you whiffed and missed on that one. You whiffed and missed on so many of these draft picks, so many free agents, and that's when you had the resources. Now you don't. All your resources are tied into 2 wide receivers, a quarterback, and possibly Trey Hendrickson. You can't whiff on free agents anymore. You have to hit in the draft. And if you don't, well, at least you're going to be watching Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins connect on a lot of really cool, exciting plays, losing games in the 40s and 30s. We'll see. This could work. This could work. I could be wrong about the Bengals, but I just don't see how that, the Bengals aren't this genius organization that, when other teams start to do their own thing, like when the Rams decided that they were going to be that team that gives up all their draft picks, F them draft picks, right? Everyone trusted the Rams because that's a Super Bowl winning franchise that has done it multiple times, and they had the right people in place. So although it made people uncomfortable watching them give up all their draft picks, there was still something there that you could trust. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, who continue to spend money. You a $50 million a year quarterback. 2 $25 million plus a year wide receivers, all the money they spend on defense. They go out and they trade draft picks for Saquon Barkley and then make him the highest paid running back in the history of the National Football League, giving Saquon Barkley $20 million a year plus. And we don't question the Eagles because they win Super Bowls, they win football games, they win divisions, they win consistently. They've earned the right to be aggressive and do things that no one else does, because they're a winning franchise. The Cincinnati Bengals are one of the worst franchises in the NFL, and you want me to believe that them going out and doing their own thing, putting money in the wide receiver market the way that they did, you want me to believe that they're the ones that are going to figure it out? The Bengals aren't a good enough organization to try to create their own path. You need to follow a blueprint that has proven to be successful for teams that have limitations like you, and pretending that you are just this example setter is just absolutely laughable to me. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, no doubt. The T. Higgins thing is a mistake. I think that's going to be very costly for the Bengals moving forward. I just don't see how it's going to work. Tommy Pennington says, I agree our ownership is terrible, but it's March, not September. What is that? I mean, I have a calendar. I know what month it is. I'm not really sure what you're referencing. It's March, not September. I'm very well aware of that. Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. We'll be right back.
I'm Sia, and I support Humane World for Animals, formerly called the Humane Society of the United States. Together, we have created a new version of Peter Gabriel's beautiful